Hey everybody, welcome back to another lesson of Rockin' the Guitar with Carl. This time we're going to talk a lot about theory and stuff. We're going to do some playing, but not that much. I want you to get to know some of the relationships between major and minor scales and each chord that's within each major scale, that's built on each degree of the scale or each minor scale. And then we're going to talk about the cycle of fourths and fifths, which is key signatures. Okay, so let's get started. What I want to do is I want to take the C major scale and I want to talk about each chord within that scale. Take each note of the scale and talk about the chord that's built on that note. Now, in every major scale, no matter what key you're in, the chord that's built on the first degree, which in this case would be C, is always a major chord. The chord that's built in the second degree of the scale is always minor. The chord built in the third degree of the scale is also always minor. The chord built on the fourth degree of the scale is always major. The chord built on the fifth degree of the scale is always major. The chord built on the sixth degree is always minor. The chord built on the seventh degree is diminished, which we haven't done yet, but we'll talk about that later on today or during this process. And then you have the C again, which is major as well. All right, so let's take C, which is obviously a major chord since we're on the one chord. The notes are C, E, and G, which, as you know, C to E is a major third because there's two whole steps between C and E, and then the minor thirds on top, E to G. So that makes a major chord. And we have C. The second chord is built on D, F, and A, which is a minor chord. The D and F is on the bottom if the chord's in root position. So D to E is a whole step, and E to F is a half step, and then F to A, which is the top two notes, are two whole steps apart, making a major third. The third chord is built on E, which is also minor, and you have E, G, and B. E to F is a half step, and then F to G is a whole step. So there's that step and a half, minor third on the bottom, and then G to B is two whole steps apart. E. The fourth chord is F major. F, A, and C. F and A is the two steps, the major third, and then A to C is a step and a half because B and C are only a half step apart. The fifth degree is G, which you have G, B, and D. G to B is two whole steps, a major third. B to D is a minor third because B and C are only a half step apart, and then you have C to D, which is a whole step. The sixth degree is built on A, which is A minor. You have A, C, and E. A to C is a minor third because of that B and C half step thing that's in there. And then C to E is two whole steps, major third on top. Then the seventh degree, now we're into the diminished chord here. What the difference between diminished, they kind of relate to the minor chord a little bit. But with a minor chord, you have the minor third on the bottom, the major third on the top, between the second and third note. With the diminished chord, you have all minor thirds. So between the bottom note and the second note is a minor third. Between the second note and the top note is also a minor third. And what I'll do is I'll play it just on three notes here so you can see the relationship in first position. So what you do is you would take your pinky finger, put it on the fourth fret of the G string for a B, third fret of the B string for a D, first fret of the E string for an F. As you can tell, that chord wants to go back to C. It doesn't want to stay there. It wants to go back to... And that's kind of the function of a diminished chord, is it wants to go back to whatever note that scale resolves to, which in this case would be C. So there's all the chords within C major. Now, you can take any major scale, and the formula is the same. The one's always major, two's always minor, and so on. And the chords are just different. But for example, if we were in G major, G is the first degree of the scale, so you'd have a major scale. A is the second degree, so you'd have A minor. B is the third degree, so you'd have B minor, and then so on. So one of the things you can do is you can take any major scale, or any of the scales that start on a natural note, which would be C, D, E, F, G, and A, and B. See if you can build your major and minor chords within that scale. Now every major scale has what's called a relative minor scale that relates to it. Every minor scale also has a relative major scale, it works vice versa. So if you take C major, every relative minor scale is built on the 6th degree of the major scale that it relates to. So if you take C major, and you start on A, which is the 6th degree, C, D, E, F, G, A, and you use the exact same notes as in C, so it would be all no sharps and no flats, but go from A to A instead of C to C, you have a natural minor scale. And that's true with any major scale. If you take any major scale, if you take G major, let's say, like we just talked about, you start on the 6th degree, which would be E in this case, and you use the same exact notes that are in the key of G major, then you have an E minor scale. Because once you start on the 6th degree, and you go from that degree to its octave, you've used the formula that we talked about when we did the minor scale, that whole half, whole half, whole formula. And you also use, not only do you use the same notes, but you use the same chords too. So in C major, the A, the chord that's built on A, is a minor chord. It's also a minor chord in the key of A minor. But they're just structured differently, they're just positioned differently. In the minor scale, the 1 chord is always minor. The 2 chord is always diminished, which in A minor would be B minor, B diminished, I'm sorry. The 3 chord is always major, which would be C in A minor. The 4 chord is always minor, which would be D minor. The 5th chord is always minor, which would be E minor. The 6th chord is always major, which would be F major. And the 7th is always major, which would be G major, and then you have A and A minor. So they relate, they're very similar, but because you structure the half steps and whole steps differently between the octaves of the scale, C to C or A to A, you have a different sound to the scale, minor or major. So what I want you to do, when you figure out the chords for each major scale that we talked about a couple minutes ago, do the same with the minor. Find its relative minor. You can practice the scale if you want, that we did a couple months ago, and build the chords on that too. You'll notice that they're exactly the same. They're just structured a little. They're just positioned differently. The 1 chord in a major scale is major. The 1 chord in a minor scale is minor, but they're exactly the same chords if you use the relative major and minor, depending on what scale you're starting with. How many future guys you get? Probably not. Okay, the last thing we're going to talk about today, I mentioned key signatures a little bit. We're going to talk about the cycle of fourths and fifths. If you Google that, if you Google cycle or circle of fourths and fifths, you'll find a chart that you can use for reference. And what that is the listing of all the key signatures and all the sharps and flats that are within each key signature. It's like a circle. And on the top of that you have C, and then going down to the right side, your right side, not mine, is all the sharp keys with sharps in the key signature. Going down on the left side is all the key signatures with flats in them. And going down on the right side, we move in fifths, from C to a fifth above that, to a fifth above that key, and all the way down. On the left side, we move in fourths, from C to a fourth above that, to a fourth above that one, and then continue on. And what that is the listing of all the key signatures and all the sharps and flats that are within each key signature. It's like a circle. And at the top of that you have C, and then going down to the right side, your right side, not mine, is all the sharp keys with sharps in the key signature. Going down on the left side is all the key signatures with flats in them. And going down on the right side, we move in fifths, from C to a fifth above that, to a fifth above that key, and all the way down. On the left side, we move in fourths, from C to a fourth above that, to a fourth above that one, and then continue on. So if we start at C, and we go down the right side using the sharps, the next key would be G, which has 1 sharp, which is F sharp. And G is a fifth away from C. A fifth away from G would be D, which has 2 sharps, F sharp and C sharp. And as you can see, every key has the same sharps as the one before, plus 1 of its own. A fifth away from D is A, which has 3 sharps, which is F, C, and G. And then every note that's not sharp is obviously natural in all these examples here. A fifth away from A is E, which has 4 sharps, which is F, C, G, and D. A fifth away from E is B, which has 5 sharps, which is F, C, G, D, and A. Fifth away from B is F sharp, which has 6 sharps, F, C, G, D, A, and E. and a fifth away from F sharp is C sharp, where all the notes are sharped. Okay, now let's go on the other side and talk about the flat keys moving in fourths. So we start at C again, we're at the top of the circle again. And we go to the fourth away from C, which is F, which has one sharp, which is B flat. Go fourth away from F, which is B flat. That's got two flats, which is B flat and E flat. A fourth away from B flat is E flat, which has three flats, E flat, B flat, and A flat. A fourth away from E flat is A flat, which has four flats, which is B, E, A, and D. Fourth away from A flat is D flat, which has five flats, which is B, E, A, D, and G. Fourth away from D flat is G flat, which has six flats, which is B, E, A, D, G, and C. And fourth away from G flat is C flat, where all the notes are flatted. And there's your cycle of fourths and fifths. Post questions, I'm sure you're going to have some because this is a little tricky. This is a lot of theory stuff. I'll be more than happy to answer them. Again, you can Google the cycle or circle of fourths and fifths, and you'll find a reference for that as well. I'm sure you'll find plenty of information on it. And that's about it. We'll see you next time.